Hello and welcome to episode 70 of Linux After Dark. I'm Joe.
I'm Chris.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Dalton.
Welcome back, chaps. You lot recently got talking about how you make your web experiences better. And we decided, right, let's save this. Let's talk about it on the show. So, uBlock Origin, that's the end of the show.
No, it really isn't, because ads aren't the only thing on the internet anymore that are annoying. It's recommended feeds and suggested content and all of this that I guess are ads, but they're first-party ads on the platform you're already on.
You can do things about that?
You sure can, buddy. So, Twitter, right? It was terrible before it got bought. It's more terrible now. But what if I told you there was better Twitter?
Yeah, it's called Mastodon.
Okay, yes, that. But also, there's an extension, literally called Better Twitter, that lets you turn off all the shit on Twitter you don't want to see. So if you don't want to see people's follower counts, or how many retweets they've gotten, or how many comments there are, or if you just want to shut off comments entirely, you want to shut off comments on the entire internet? Well, Shut Up is the extension for you.
So that works even though Elon's tried to replug all the servers and make the APIs fucked.
I mean, I'm sure things break every now and again, but for the most part, it's not about getting rid of everything, just most things. And I'm not entirely sure if Elon's team knows how to redo the CSS in a way that it'll stop working, so I think we're safe there.
Why are you two saying Elon weird? I don't like it.
I just say it however the last person said it, like Ubuntu.
I mean, we could just call him Shithead for the rest of the recording.
Yes. But with comments, Comment Snob, I don't know if that still exists, but I installed that for a while and it would refuse to display any comment that didn't start with a capital letter, was all in caps, or had excessive punctuation, that sort of thing.
I have other extensions too that I'd like to I'd like to shill for that do basically the same thing. I have one called DF YouTube, or Distraction Free YouTube, that turns off the home page, it turns off shorts, it turns off all of these things so that you just don't see them. Recommends, they're gone too. Comments, you can get rid of those, although Shut Up does that too, so I have two competing things trying to disable comments at the same time. I think it's all basically the same idea of, using CSS to turn stuff off, or injecting JavaScript to snip some stuff off the DOM, or whatever it is. But it's all really useful. Oh, I've got one called YouTube Shorts Block, where, well, one, it hides YouTube Shorts from the homepage, but also if you get a link to one, it reinterprets the link to just be a regular YouTube video, so you don't get the stupid interface.
But how else are you going to waste an hour at a time?
I don't want to.
Sometimes I want to.
Well, then you open up a private tab and go to YouTube again. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but then the shorts aren't going to be related to my interests.
Put it in Chrome or something. I don't know.
My problem with shorts and stuff, though, is that I just look at them on the phone. So none of these plugins are really going to work, right? It feels like a flawed plan to me to try and disable as much of this stuff on the computer as possible when I just watch the stuff on my phone. That's the problem.
Well, I only have a half solution for you there, but on the phone, Safari does have extensions now. I don't know how long it's actually had them, but a lot of this stuff exists for iOS Safari too, and you just have to uninstall the YouTube app and resolve to not reinstall it. I know it's really easy. I've done it before. I fall into the same trap you do, don't worry.
Yeah, it's the first time I want to cast a YouTube video or download one for offline playback or something that it becomes an immediate problem, right? I don't have enough willpower for this, I guess is my point.
You tried a dumb phone, didn't you, for a while?
Yeah, that worked out really well. Really, really well.
I told you, when everyone says, the young people are getting dumb phones, are they bollocks? They talk about it, but then they last about 5 minutes with it, and then they want to get back on bloody TikTok.
Yep. Everyone I've ever met that tries to do that just doesn't. They don't last the course at all. Bloody Cal Newport, sod off. Shove your banjo up your ass.
Jeez, man. Who pissed in your cornflakes?
Sorry, it was a ukulele. That was factually incorrect, so I stand corrected. Probably easier to fit up there as well.
Why are we so angry?
I just think it's idealistic, Sometimes I speak to other parents who are like, I'm not letting my child ever use a smartphone. I'm letting my daughter, my 6-year-old, use a smartphone to learn how to do maths. Like, it's intuitive. I don't leave her there unsupervised with adult YouTube for the whole evening, but it's not inherently evil. I don't think you don't necessarily need to eradicate it from your life, but that's why these things are quite useful. One extension I've had installed for a while is Clickbait Remover, and there's now D-Arrow. D-Arrow is a bit of an extension of that, where they tried to crowdsource better descriptions and thumbnails, and people sort of upvote and then replace them on YouTube, because depending on what the channel is, wading through the gawping-faced open question crap to get, like, what is this video about, or the sensationalism, it can be quite useful to just be like, this is a video about a computer, and that's it. And here's a picture of the computer that's going to be in the video. Thank you very much.
That feels a bit Orwellian, though, to me. Editing reality. Because you're not actually seeing the title and the thumbnail then. You're just seeing someone else's interpretation of it.
Well, yeah, I guess. But this is the problem with YouTube, isn't it? It's evolved from MKBHD filming himself on a terrible resolution home camera talking about some cool things as a teenager to you need to gawp, you need to do this, here's your engagement, come to the office, get your silver plaque. I don't know if I like what it's become. My interaction with YouTube has significantly reduced recently, to be honest. Like, I don't watch many things all the way through. I don't go to visit as much as I might have done.
Well, it's like I always say, love YouTube, hate YouTubers.
Well, the extension that I installed, which I feel has made the biggest difference to my web browsing in years, is Consent-O-Matic, which gets rid of those stupid cookie consent forms that are mandatory in Europe now. And it just goes and handles them, and it clicks reject all, and I don't have to deal with them and unticking every single box anymore.
See, I tried that and it just didn't work.
I've probably got about a 90% success rate for it.
All right.
And that's enough for me. There's the occasional website I go to where it doesn't work or it breaks something, but most of the time it's okay.
Don't you find that your browsers are really bogged down with all these extensions? Doesn't it make it really slow?
No. A lot of it is stripping out superfluous content and makes it snappier rather than anything else, especially uBlock.
Yeah, YouTube loads way faster when it doesn't load all of that content on the homepage and all the thumbnails and like the mouse over stuff. It's actually faster.
Yeah. It's like when you go to old.reddit.com, which of course they're going to turn off soon, surely.
Yeah, I keep waiting for that.
Because it's like a wonderful portal back in time. Obviously, half the posts are fuck Reddit, post deleted now, but just the experience of being able to scroll without my fans on my laptop spinning up. And it's just the text. I just want the text, not the bits and bobs. Of course, they're going to get rid of that eventually.
I have got it down to 2 plugins now, uBlock Origin and Firefox Translations, which I just enabled to just try out at some point. Because I used to have HTTPS everywhere, but then they baked it into Firefox.
Yeah. A website which I've visited quite a lot is privacyguides.org, I think it's called. And the recommendations they make are just install uBlock Origin. And if you want to, I mean, it is privacy focused, but if you want to do anything else, then use something like ArkandFox and start modifying JSON for your actual browser.
Whoa.
But that is if you really feel like you want to go the whole hog. And I think Will's spoken about it on Late Night Linux before. You go too far down a path and you fundamentally break too many websites and then you can't use the internet at all. But especially Firefox has worked really hard to do stuff like HTTPS everywhere becoming integrated into the options. And so you don't need a lot of extensions. But yeah, I'm a Dalton. Some of them are quality of life and they don't bog down my experience. In fact, the opposite. If I happen to use a clean browser window that exposes me to the internet as it is for other people, that's when I'm like, oh my God, it burns my eyes.
How do people use this?
I don't understand.
Yeah, actually, it is functionally poor. It's even just uBlock Origin. It's the first thing I recommend to people. I'm like, please, because it's not just blocking adverts. It's blocking like things that eat CPU cycles. The default block lists are very well curated.
Yeah, and it's actually installed by default on the Raspberry Pi in Raspberry Pi OS, which is nice.
Whoa.
Interesting.
I mean, even if you don't want to install uBlock Origin, just turning on the strict privacy filter thing in Firefox gets rid of a lot of that right away.
What about the Pi-hole route and DNS blocking instead of browser-based blocking?
Well, I do that too. I have 2 Pi-holes for redundancy, and then I set the DNS to quad 9 as well, because I have my wife using the internet on the daily, not really concerned about this stuff. And some people are like, doesn't she come to you all the time saying it won't load, it won't load? No, not really. Quad 9 is the upstream DNS, and it resolves the DNS, and it will block stuff that is known to be malware and stuff like that. And then Pi-hole comes in and uses its block lists. And then uBlock Origin is running on the computer. So, you're sifting each layer until you get to it. And as I say, it's when I go to other people's houses and use their computers, and I'm not wireguarding back into the setup I have here, I'm like, this is not the internet that I know.
Okay, this episode is sponsored by Kolide. What do you call an endpoint security product that works perfectly but makes users miserable? A failure. The old approach to endpoint security is to lock down employee devices and roll out changes through forced restarts, but it just doesn't work. IT is miserable because they've got a mountain of support tickets, employees start using personal devices to get their work done, and executives opt out the first time it makes them late for a meeting. You can't have a successful security implementation unless you work with end users. That's where Kolide comes in. Their user-first device trust solution notifies users as soon as it detects an issue on their device and teaches them how to solve it without needing help from IT. That way, untrusted devices are blocked from authenticating, but users don't stay blocked. Kolide is designed for companies with Okta, and it works on macOS, Windows, Linux, and mobile devices. So if you have Okta and you're looking for a device trust solution that respects your team, support the show and go to kolide.com/LinuxAfterDark to watch a demo and see how it works. That's KOLIDE.com/LinuxAfterDark. Quick bit of admin then. First of all, thank you everyone who supports us with PayPal and Patreon. We really do appreciate that. If you want to join those people, you can go to linuxafterdark.net/support. And for either $5 or $10 a month on Patreon, you can get an advert-free RSS feed of either just this show or all the shows in the Late Night Linux family. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can email show@linuxafterdark.net. What about paywalled stuff? Because for me, archive.is is the savior there. Whenever I hit something that's paywalled, I just copy the link, go to archive.is, see if they've got it cached already. If not, get them to cache it for me. And probably 80% of the time, it just works and you can just read the article with no paywall. Should I feel bad about that? Probably not.
If I hit a paywall, I just go back and continue my browsing somewhere else. I don't have time for it. Obviously, your job is a little different, needing to source news articles for shows and stuff. But I just give up on it at that point.
Yeah, I'm fairly similar to Dalton. Like, if they're going to paywall it, then I'm probably not interested in seeing it. And on the occasions I am, I'll use something like 12foot.io or archive.is. But that's usually if someone sent me a link to something paywalled.
Yeah, I had an extension called Bypass Paywalls Clean, but a lot of websites have gotten onto that. And a bit like uBlock Origin, it has its own settings dialog and has an enormous list of websites that it can bypass the paywalls on. Medium is one which really winds me up, but there's a website I think called Freedium. So you just put the URL and it's a bit like archive.is and it just gives you back the blog post. And I'm not a big fan of Medium, but sometimes, weirdly for work, someone has posted something about some kind of machine learning. How do you run Reliant 5 with the Blush Python API? Oh, some guys put it on Medium and it's the only resource I can find. I put it through Freedium and what he's put has actually worked. So it's been a solution.
Is there an equivalent for Substack? Because, man, I cannot stand going to Substack and just you're reading it and then it's like all pop-ups like subscribe. It's like, no, just let me read the thing.
Isn't this a thorny conversation? Because the elephant in the room here, as we look back on how this conversation came to be a topic that we record, Dalton is the one who asked, what do you do to reduce distractions and basically un-inshitify the internet, was how he put it. Staring me in the face is Sponsor Block, to which I've put a thumbs up, Gary's put a thumbs up, and Joe's put a thumbs down.
Yeah, because you see, I see that as different, because Sponsor Block specifically skips parts of YouTube videos where people do their ad reads. Now, I think that baked in ad reads like that are fair play, quite frankly. And that may be because that's how I make some of my living, doing baked in ad reads in these shows. But I just see it as completely different from ad tech and tracking and all that. It's not. It's based on demographics. It's how advertising should be. Like an episode of one of the Late Night Linux family shows might be sponsored by, I don't know, Tailscale, for example, because that is relevant to a lot of the people listening. It's relevant to the demographic. And to have a plugin that skips that, I don't think is right, really. It's not fair on the creators. They have to get paid for doing their thing. And it's better for them to have a baked-in ad like that, something that they have taken the time to assess, or should have taken the time to assess whether it's legit or not, versus just some automated bullshit that's based on various tracking cookies and all of that. It's just a completely different type of advertising, and it is the type of advertising that I think is fine.
Well, I don't think it is fine, because as the advertising market gets more difficult to attract sponsors in, you get adverts for buying some land in Scotland to become a Sir, or Raid Shadow Legends, or some other thing that's completely irrelevant to the video that I'm never going to buy, so there's no point in me seeing it, frankly.
Buying a piece of paper that says you have a bit of land in Scotland, but you don't actually. Yeah. Well, if you are dumb enough as a creator to take on sponsorship like that, then I'm going to unsubscribe from your channel and never watch your shit again.
But don't you accept the fact that what you literally said leading into this about Substack is a bit tricky? A lot of journalists either don't want to write for mainstream media, or the opportunities are just drying up because the big old mainstream media corporations can't figure out how to reconfigure for this modern age, because you think Google's having it tough because they went from search engine to ad selling company. Most newspapers survive on their ad sales and have lots and lots of people in Gordon Gekko type slick back hair, if you go back to the 80s, on the phone, hard selling advertising space. This is the model. It's changed slightly, but if we do have a way to circumvent Substack, then the people that write that stuff, the whole model breaks down. So I feel weird when it comes to sponsor block, but also I have never ever clicked on an advert in a YouTube video to follow it up either, and frequently have tried to skip that section. So it's just speeding up what I was already doing. So I don't feel that bad.
Advertising isn't necessarily about getting you to click that moment. It's about next time you're thinking about it, you'll think about that thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So just because you've never clicked a video, you might have actually just been swayed. It's subconscious.
Possibly. But when it comes to the topic of the relevance of the content, it's weird how sponsorship and advertising are slightly different there, aren't they? I mean, when you buy advertising space in the commercial break of a television program, it used to be, and it still is, I think, for prime time television where you can guess the demographic, they try and target the advertising. But increasingly, a lot of the stuff I look at, for especially car adverts, I think the agency are just on some kind of drugs. Like, I'm not going to buy this thing at all. Like, I guess it gets people talking about the product.
I wonder what drug ad agency people might be on.
It's very hard to tell, isn't it?
Can't think of it.
Whereas with podcasts and YouTube channels, the model traditionally has been that you try to attract a like-minded sponsor that the audience is going to be directly keyed into. I think that's become more difficult recently because in the last year or so, a lot of companies that would have been freer, as Dortner says, the free money's run out, that would have thrown money around a bit more liberally, have suddenly, the trend is not to do that.
Yeah, like maybe some cloud companies.
I wonder who that would be.
But the model of supporting individually the people that you like is really, I think, what needs to happen. But I'm such a hypocrite because, yeah, look at me. I've got Sponsor Block, FreeDM, uBlock Origin, Archived.is, like every single opportunity I've got to do any of that, I'm not doing it.
And how many people do you support on Patreon?
Well, none.
Am I the only one with a long Patreon list? Uh-oh.
I support us on Patreon. Does that count?
Hey, so do I.
You just don't want to hear the ads, do you?
Exactly. See, I do the right thing.
I could just send you the episodes on Telegram.
No. I want to have them in my podcast player, among other things. I mean, for me, it is a case where on YouTube, I don't actually use sponsor block, but I do skip through the ads, but I'm using YouTube Premium, which means that I'm in this special pool of viewers that nets more money per view. I guess that's how I kind of think about it's okay to be blocking all of the stuff on here. I don't know. This is awful. This is an awful industry.
But also, do you not feel like it's just going to eat itself like Amazon have done, where you pay, it was sort of an add-on, but you feel like you're paying for it. And now they want you to pay for it again to get rid of the adverts. And now even worse, when you pause anything in the middle, not even in the ad break, when you pause the actual program, more adverts come up on the pause button, literally like Black Mirror. People keep trying to wriggle out of this model. And I swear, I've been blocking ads on the internet for ages, like AdBlock Plus and things that existed before uBlock Origin. I can't remember, we're talking about when the first days of Channel 4 existed. I got annoyed because they worked out a way to serve, much like now, the adverts in the same stream as the program. Because before, ad blockers would work. They would just jump the ad breaks and show you the program without adverts. So it's always been the way that I've consumed the modern internet as soon as it became an advertising farm instead of GeoCities and a scrolling GIF banner.
I love that marquee tag.
Especially when combined with Blink. Right, well, we'd better get out of here then. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, but until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Chris.
I've been Gary.
And I've been Dalton.
See you later.